slowing down a little bit. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Oh, good. I think we've got a pretty good group here. I'm actually super excited that Rebecca is here. Because I know this is something, well, it just was random. I don't know if you guys were following the thread. Mary is losing her voice, and Kathy and I heard it. It's crazy.
No fun.
But we are pivoting a little bit for today's meeting, and I am working on some Lifecycle comms, new onboarding comms, and Rebecca had, well, one, she's just an expert in the space, but two, joined as a new user of G2, so had firsthand experience with what our current process is, and it is very confusing and doesn't make much sense at all. So excited that she's here, especially.
Well, thank you so much. I'm here in my Friday cash. I don't know if other people do Friday casual, hair in a bun, and logo shirt day.
I love it. I actually changed because I was like, oh no, people are going to be looking at me.
I have a like a day wear, and then I have video wear. So this is one of the video shirts.
I like it. It's like Rachel's joining. Hey, Angela. Good to see you.
Likewise.
We can probably get started. And if there's anything else that other people want to talk about today, this is very loose, informal. I don't have anything prepared at all. But one of the things I'm working on is thinking about our customer journey. Right now, specifically, a need that has come up is our SMB team is looking to scale, or is scaling, whether they like it or not, is sort of the situation they're in. And so I am looking at ways we can support from a marketing perspective with things like onboarding and adoption and engagement throughout the life cycle. And so I think I've shared this before, but I joined G2 about a year ago, and was the first customer marketing hire. So prior to me joining, there was really no one who was thinking about the customer journey from start to finish. And if you've been a G2 customer, our customer success and relationship management teams are really good and they're very hands-on, but it's not sustainable as we've continued to scale. And so I'm looking for ways that I can support them and support our customers in making sure they're successful. And so I would love to hear if anyone else has done it. I can sort of run through how I'm approaching it and then maybe get some feedback or advice. If I don't want to make this call just about me, but I figured that's a good place to start since we don't have a formal topic here.
I do have a question for you, Caitlin.
Yeah.
How are you partnering with customer education on this one?
So I am also customer education. So
all right, that was my question, because that's a natural aggregation of tasks for this, because as the scale portion of customer success, that's what both of those teams do the best. So as long as you've got that perspective in there, then I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, we don't have a formal customer education team. It all rolls up to customer marketing. And so Erin, who actually you met and helped a lot, Christine, manages our customer education, but she reports directly to me. So we're very well aligned because we're the same team. So it works out.
That works then.
Yeah. So we, one of the first things we did, we actually started with, we have a G2 core learning path that's going to become the first place we send people in terms of onboarding and education to support some of the things that our CSMs are doing manually. It will also support situations like yours, Rebecca, where you guys were a customer, but you came in new. And so you didn't go through our normal onboarding path in any way. It was just like, here you go, now you're in. And so we're thinking through basically what is that first 90-day cadence for a net new customer. So as soon as a deal closes, what is the comm flow from day 1 through day 90? That's kind of what we're tackling first. And so we know we want to connect them with specific resources like our G2 core training courses. We want to make sure that they know where to find documentation, how to access our support team. I'm also working on incorporating customer stories into that first 90-day nurture stream. So like we have, well, personally, I think it's a great piece of content with the Flowcast and Captivate Collective teams. They built a comprehensive review gen strategy so Captivate Collective worked with Flowcast, and they're asking for reviews pretty much everywhere. And they've got a really great machine running. And so we partnered with them on a customer guide. So kind of what is their playbook for doing it? So making sure we're hitting people with that content in the first 90 days. And then in terms of always on engagements, we have been running monthly, we're calling them office hours, but I think I'm going to rebrand those because they're not really office hours. They're more like mini training sessions on like, here's how to either optimize your profile, or here's 5 strategies for building review campaigns, or here's how you can be using your review content in your marketing campaigns, things like that, so that we're helping support people beyond those first 90 days, or if you're a net new user, or you maybe are brand new to G2 or brand new to reviews in general, just trying to think about what is the content that would be the most helpful. So that's kind of how I'm approaching it. I think where I'm struggling is like, what happens after those first 90 days? So how do I think about always on engagement, and should it be like, I would love this group's input, like year 1, it's a true nurture stream, or should we be thinking more holistically of like, this is how we're going to engage all of our customers on a calendar year basis? And so after your first 90 days, you just kind of go into a stream that's for everyone until you hit a roadblock. And then we have almost like friction point streams to help get you out of whatever thing you're tackling. So has anyone tackled that or thought through it? And sorry to everyone who just joined. I was in the middle of my long rant, basically talking about how we're approaching customer comms from an onboarding perspective to help scale customer success for new customers, but then also thinking about how we're engaging a broader customer base.
Hey, Caitlin, I can share something that we built at a former company. If I can share my screen. I don't know if you can allow me to share my screen. It says host disable that. So this was, I used to work at a company called Constant Contact. So for people familiar with that, very SMB. So I will say the things that we did don't always translate when the companies are bigger and there's fewer companies and more complicated and more users. But I think that it can help sort of as a framework.
Yeah.
So
can you share? Yeah,
cool. Yes, you guys can see my screen. Yes, thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So this is just, again, as sort of a framework to think about how to approach Lifecycle like over time. So we got much, much more complicated. We had really, really good, huge analytics team that helped us with this. And we had over 500,000 customers. So again, very small. So a little bit different. But basically what this said was, think about new people coming in. So you've got these new paying customers, and they're in this new bucket for, you figure out 30, 60, 90 days, whatever, after implementation. And then you want them to be successful. So you got to figure out like, what does success look like? And after a certain period of time, whatever that 30, 60, 90 days, they go into the success bucket. And then people in the success bucket go, get this other stream of communications. And so you need to figure out, what does that group of people look like? What are the types of things that they need? Some people might go from new to at risk. And so you need to figure out again, like, what does that look like? Like, what data do you have? What are your milestones? What are your in-product behaviors or whatever that define as somebody saying, oh, they might not be successful. And so then they get a different stream of communications. They might get CSM, like they might get more one-to-one or some other interactions. So you figure out like, what are you doing with the at-risk people? You try to get them into success. And then we define like after some period of success, that's when we did like upsell of other products. And so you had to sort of become like, you like earn your way or become eligible for us to talk to you about other things. And then again, people could drop down to at risk, they could cancel. And then, you know, we also had a stream for after they cancel to try to win them back. And then they come back into new. So this is just sort of an overall like one framework. I mean, this takes a lot of data, a lot of automation, a lot of time, but I think it can be helpful to try to sort of chunk things out into different buckets. So that's one of the things that we had done.
Yeah, I love that. And when you were managing all of that, were you using your regular MarTech stack, or were you using something like Gainsight or a CS tool? What did that look like?
Yeah, no, we had Salesforce Marketing Cloud.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, lot of analytics, a lot of automation there. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have Gainsight. We didn't have CSMs. It was all
okay. Oh, wow.
one-to-many product-led growth because the customers were small and they were paying us small amounts, and there was 500,000 customers. So again, not always. So like I brought this model with me. It's not totally relatable. It's I've gotten into companies with fewer customers, more complicated sales, but it helps as a framework.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Just to add, sorry, hi Christina here. I've just started new in my role at a company called Go Cardless, and we've just kind of like adopted almost exactly the same strategy. And I've just seen your t-shirt, Rebecca, and we have an event with you guys.
Yes, we're partners. We should talk. It's like, oh,
yeah,
yeah.
we got an event with you guys. I think it's in a couple of weeks or so, if I'm not mistaken. So
good. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, but we're working on building a similar kind of framework. But again, we have the kind of support of like a BI data team to help, but again, building it in Marketing Cloud and just taking it on that sort of like same journey, really, to be honest, and just building it from our company's kind of split. There's one team that takes care of acquisition and then like what we call activation. So they need to like kind of like put the pillars in place, and then it goes over to my team, which is where we're like looking to like grow usage, etc. But I say grow usage because when you get to my team, it's very possible that you still haven't done anything at all. So there's still a whole element of onboarding and education, everything that needs to happen. And we're just in the process of doing exactly like chunking it up in, okay, what we think is crucial for onboarding. And then as people progress, moving into like the different streams that are maybe more relevant to them as they grow within the different stages. I don't know if that's helpful.
No,
it's just an approach, yeah.
Caitlin, it's funny, as you're talking about this, the first thing that was coming to my mind was actually the conversation I had with Rebecca, you and Hari a while back, because you were talking about sort of like relevant sending through the like post-sale through the customer lifecycle, sending very relevant content to each customer. And I'm thinking through the other ways I've heard organizations talk about doing that. And oftentimes it's based on, and I don't know if this was for SMB, like maybe it's whatever the metric is, that's sort of their core value metric, like how you're gauging their success, like the primary North Star metric, you're gauging their success with G2, whether again, not that this is right, but like the number of reviews responded to or whatever it is, putting people in different segments based on that value metric, and then giving them sort of customized journeys or communications around product education and offers and so forth, based on whatever that their success level with that particular metric is.
Oh, interesting. So breaking it down, like right now we have kind of a rolled up adoption score. And so it's either like you're green or you're not green. And that's the pathway we have. But I hadn't considered like there's a lot of things that make up that adoption score. If you break it out, we could get more prescriptive with content. That's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's to Rebecca's point, it could get pretty complex, but even if you had like, there were 3 different actions you wanted them to take and scaling, like how maybe those fit roll up already into your adoption score, but it's like reply to a G2 review. Again, I know these aren't right. Reply to add this section on your profile and do this thing. And if you are able to somehow break those out and then put people in different buckets in a way that's not totally overcomplicated, could be cool.
Yeah, that's great. Because we definitely know like there are 5 things that customers either do or don't do. And based on that, they're successful or they're not. And so I feel like the level of complication becomes like, with the different segments. But if we're just focused on SMB, at least to get started, that's
Right.
probably an easy way, like low hanging fruit to look at. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I even think as a user, I sometimes get what you just said exposed to some degree to me to be like gamify. Here are the 5 things we see with the most successful, because for your product, people want to be successful and they can almost like envision themselves on a scoreboard of like, we're doing better than the other people, like, right.
Sure.
In our sector, whatever it is, not those words, but so to say like, these are the 5 things we find that leads to the most success with G2. And then to have like a, where are we progress bar on each one of those could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great idea. Cool. Well, I feel like I got a lot of value out of this. I want to make sure other people have the chance to. Does anyone else have anything that they're working on that they want to share with the group or get some perspective on?
I do.
Yeah, great.
Thanks. I guess, so like I said, I'm kind of a newer, I'm actually new to the customer marketing space more specifically because I've always been a generalist before. But so the team I lead focuses on, I guess, what we call revenue generating customer marketing. So it covers lifecycle comms and then also demand gen, which is an area that I never thought would be in the kind of customer space. And I'm kind of, I guess, keen to know if anyone has dovetailed those two, because also in the wider area of my kind of group that I sit in, we also have a team that is focused on making in-product changes to the actual product themselves. And then also a partner marketing team, which is why I was saying, oh, Rebecca, we're doing an event with the partner marketers that sit like from the customer side. So I was just keen to know if anyone has maybe mixed a bit of life cycle and demand gen play on the customer side and how they've approached it. If not, it's cool. I can share what I'm thinking, but I just wondered if anyone had a stab at doing anything like that.
I have not in my current role. Actually, in my last role, I was responsible for upsell, cross-sell as one of my key metrics. We were just starting to get a little more sophisticated. Prior to that, it was sort of like, how do we narrow in on which products are right for which customers? And so I know you mentioned you have a strong BI team. And so I leaned heavily on mine. We had a really great account management ops team. And so we actually went through the exercise of which of our customers don't have which tools, and then which ones do we think realistically have a need? So would be a good match. And then it was sort of like an ABM light. I don't even want to call it ABM because it was still one to many, but we were like highly segmented in the way we approached it. And I found their partnering really closely with my account management team was key. And I was the first one there who had ever focused on anything with customers. And so I actually, similar to you, I was a generalist before. I was used to having a super engaged sales team that were hunters. And I found that these account managers, that was not how they had previously functioned. And so I was even having to educate them on like, here's what it means when it comes through as a customer MQL. And, you know, you might think that they're not the right fit, but they just came to a demo that I ran. And so maybe you should talk to them. And so I found that I almost had to do more education of our sales team of like, here's what you should do with these types of leads. And here's what it means when it gets to that point for you. I don't know if that's helpful or what you were looking for, but that was like my biggest challenge. And even I still get mad about it. Like the week I was leaving, the VP was like, well, we didn't really bring in anything from customer marketing, right? And I'm like, oh, except the 8 different campaigns that I ran that all have customers who actively engaged with us. And most of them saw a demo of the product. And he was like, oh, I didn't even know this existed. And so I feel like it was like internal education that I wasn't expecting to be the challenge that became a challenge for me there.
Okay, that's a good, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think, I guess where I am now is trying to know, because you can I feel like you can attack both of them with both Lifecycle and both with demand gen. So it's about, I guess maybe we're very much, I'm very pro experimentation. So I've got, headcount working and on that as well. But it's just about knowing, I guess, which way to go down, which one I've got like my 4 pillars, and how I want to attribute both demand gen being more educational and, using the customer piece, and Lifecycle comms being more like personalized and like transactional almost. But it's just, I guess I'm still working through how to like layer the two and blend the two if we target the same people with both and all that kind of
we're doing the same thing, Christina, and it's really a fine line of a mix of what's going on. We're actually creating a pretty standardized campaign, and then leveraging how we push the information to the existing customers, whether it's brand new kinds of go-to-market functionalities, right? Or it is actual product upsell kinds of things that we're focused on. And we're tackling them in a again, relatively traditional way from a demand gen lifecycle perspective, where we're basically saying, here's the use case. If you fit this use case, come hang with us while we do some demos and have some live some live discussion about this content. And then where applicable, we're throwing in spiffs to CSMs, to AMs, so that they'll know what's going on. And we have a coordinated marketing strategy that focuses on the work that I do in customer marketing, as well as the content that our customer education team delivers within the product itself in terms of notifications and notices, and the one-on-one communication that comes from CSMs. So it's all this kind of hodgepodge of mix. We just ran our first one, and to Katlin's point, when we started trying to figure out what attribution looks like, it was very challenging. And what we came up with was that we influenced X dollars. Okay. Because I couldn't, given that it was our first campaign that we'd ever done, number one, first campaign I'd ever done, number two, and where all the numbers reside. We haven't got a really automated flow yet on what things should do and what should happen. So I was looking in different places for different pieces of information. We got some, and again, influencing almost $100,000 is cool for our first time out.
Cool.
So,
thank you.
So it is a mix.
I'll just throw in as a side comment, Katlin, your comment that was made about what is your program bringing to sales, and then Christine, you talking about attribution really hit me in the gut, because so often we're asked, what is the value of what we do? And oftentimes they don't understand the non-revenue impact we have, and makes it super duper important to justify ourselves through revenue or attribution or whatever have you, and making sure that you tag and via API get anything you do into the CRM system, so that you're there and you can wave your hand a little bit and said, I did this and this equals X amount of dollars. My favorite quote from a former senior leader was, I don't care about engagement, Dean. I only care about leads. That's when I knew I was doomed. So those comments about attribution and what value do you bring, bring back nightmares, but also the importance of making sure you can demonstrate value beyond the unmeasurable and in dollars and cents, wherever you can and however you can. And that's all I got to say about that.
I'm going to do my normal thing that people are usually used to, which is play devil's advocate for a second. And I say this knowing that our marketing team is run by somebody who has a background in demand gen. So we're lucky in that we don't have to prove a one-to-one conversion into anything we do, right? He is well aware that not one thing ever produces any single deal. But what we do try to concentrate on is we try to find correlations. We try to figure out where within where like we started working with a customer or where they got into our reference program and how much money has been generated percentage-wise in their overall life cycle post that point. So while we can't necessarily say we caused that, there is a large correlation of we provided them a good service or we provided them a good experience that they have doubled down. I can look at if I have reports based off of that when it comes to content produced, when it comes to added into the reference program. And even further than that, I can look at like if they've given us a certain type of reference, how that goes into it. So while that doesn't necessarily say, hey, I've been responsible, like I think I can look through here and say like a reference call has been responsible for $25 million over the history that I've been here. I'm not naive enough to say that my team is responsible for that. That'd be pretty cool, and I'd kind of like some of that money back, but we're not. But I think the more realistic that we as customer marketers can be in pushing back against people that say, hey, give me a dollar amount. If they're asking you like you are affecting this dollar amount, you're like, okay, cool, I can give it to you, but that's not factually correct. But we were a part of this type of growth, I think, is the way that we need to refocus the conversation. Because I think, Dean, you're right, is if you get that question, you're working for somebody who doesn't quite understand the building blocks that go into each individual deal.
Yep. I figure half our job should be shameless self-promotion, cheerleading, education, championing what we do up the chain, just to make sure senior leadership understands what our programs are and what they aren't. I find I spend a lot of time doing that. Some of it's self-preservation, but some of it's just fact of the matter.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like the other thing I've been looking at recently too is our engagement rate and the impact it has on customer retention too. Because even though I can't say, I'm responsible for X dollars in renewal, like that would be crazy, I can point to and say that our customers who've engaged with marketing activities are renewing at a significantly higher rate than customers who aren't engaged. And so even for me, like we hit 96% engagement from customers last quarter. And I said, I want to know who that 4% is, because I'm going to personally email them and find out what they want from us if they haven't engaged. And looking at it, it was like all but 10 of those customers churned in the last month of the quarter. And so to me, that was like a super, I don't know, red flag, green flag, because it was good, because it gave me an action of like, okay, I shouldn't be looking at this the last month of the quarter. Let me look at it earlier and see where I can help intervene or flag that for their account management team or customer success team to help engage too.
And just on that as well, Ken, isn't it possible to, if you do, I guess, run campaigns to target that cohort, you have a control group, which would be a lot easier for you to then, I guess, more specifically say, look, guys, of those who did this and those who didn't, where you can kind of, maybe it makes it easier to attribute that way, perhaps. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if it's like a group that was not engaging, now does. Yeah. That's interesting, and a much smaller group to manage too. What else? Anything else that people are working on, or anything that anyone wants to share as like a win from the week or the last few months?
I guess I'll celebrate. We published a case study today that basically to the day took us 6 months. So I'm very excited about this to get it off the
awesome.
off that. Plus, we have our conference next week, and we had all of our external videos done 2 days ago. So if you happen to watch the conference next week, just don't listen to me ruining the surprise that it's not live. Pay no attention to the pre-recorded things.
That's awesome.
Sorry for going off camera. I'm eating my lunch. I would love input on two different things, if that's okay. So the first one is, I'm curious how many of you work with regional marketing leaders and how you manage getting speakers and customers to attend those events. Like, what is your role versus what do the people do regionally? Because I'm finding that between being asked for references and speakers for all these different events that we have, and trying to get customers to attend these local events, it's becoming really overwhelming. And I'm curious how much of that sits with you versus how much of that sits with regional people. Anyone? People don't have regional events.
I'm happy to, unless if other people don't have it, I don't mean to monopolize, but we have both regional marketing, which is kind of under field marketing, and we have regional events teams. So if you think about regional marketing, our regional marketing team really works directly with the reps and the CSMs on events internal to each customer. So if you're thinking, like, we call them account days, where it's kind of this mini conference, if you will, a mini thing where our SEs give a demo. There's always an internal customer there that, like, our champion presents to other people at their organization what they're doing. We don't help select those ones. We do help prepare them, though, because we want to make sure that they have the best possible experience in presenting. Plus, it kind of allows us to form a relationship with them to begin with. And so perhaps over time, we can get them to be public references. From an external perspective, we're talking about our events team. The same events team that is putting on the conference next week also puts on sort of regional events. We just finished a regional tour event that we were in 6 different cities over the span of 7-8 weeks, and my team was responsible for finding customer speakers for each one of those. Those are those are the things that you're talking about. So we're very specific. We're just finding the speakers, we're preparing them, and we then went to them. Like, each one of us sort of split them up, but it was only one part of it. Like, it was just we are responsible for the speakers themselves. We're not, like, we can't help drive people there. We can't help do this. This is our role.
That's super helpful. And sort of to expand on that, so part of the challenge is they're coming to us and asking us to help drive attendees. I don't know about the rest of you. I don't know where most of our customers live. So we actually do have, I don't know how common this is. I've never had it before. We have an enrichment team. So we actually have a team of people, and their job is to enrich our data. So I sent them a list. We pulled out all of our customers who are headquartered in a certain region. And then I said to them, hey, can you find out people of these titles who work for this company, where they live and what their email address is? And they had a hard time matching it up. So for me, that's part of the problem, is I don't know where people live. So to fill an event, so we're very global. This was a recent thing was for in India. For me to help drive customers to attend an event in India, other than pulling companies headquartered there, like, I don't have the resources to find where actual people live. And we
started asking the "where are you" question as part of community registration, as part of the property in community, so that we would have the data. In SEDMA, where we try to do regional content, we ran into this as a huge issue because it was still based on an on-prem kind of environment, right? Where were people actually working?
Right.
And now that 80% of us are SaaS-based, work from home, the numbers were no longer true. And so that was one of the biggest items when I opened up the community that one of my mentors gave me was ask them where they are every day. Not where their company is, but where they are, so that when we want to do things that are relatively local, we can get to them more easily than we could through the hell that is trying to find where they are from the company perspective. but it was one of the biggest nuggets I got was to try to capture that information as part of their registration and community. Because that's where I would publish that we were going to do a local event anyway.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And we have an events team that would actually handle the logistics of it. Although I would try to bring in real people. I would try to get them, some local customers to attend, but they would drive it for both prospects and existing customers.
That's helpful. Thank you.
When we've done it, I feel like it's been similar to Daniel, where I'm responsible for helping source speakers and prepare them and make sure, all of the presentation portion is taken care of. But our field marketing and events team are the ones doing the outreach for attendance. I'll
Heavy
help
lifting.
if it's like, enabling the CSM or account management team, just because I'm generally closer, but most of that is coming from the field marketer or the events person.
And then my kids are going to walk in the door soon. I'm going to have to move. My other question I'm curious about is, actually, my husband's going to get them. It's pouring out. I did not realize it was raining. My other question is, so I am being asked to put together an in-person conference in the fall. Yay, we're just starting planning now. And I would like to have like a customer steering committee to help plan it. And I'm curious if anybody has done that before and what you have learned has worked really well or not well in terms of getting your customers to participate in planning, and mostly from like a topics perspective. Like I want to know what is of interest to them, so the agenda is really compelling. So I'm wondering if anyone has ideas on that.
We found that we needed to present them with a theme, so that we could corral the topics from the get-go rather than being all over the map. And we discovered too that a dual track of practitioners and strategy was a good way to get different kinds of content in a clear manner, right? So that people would be able to say, I'm much more interested in the strategy behind whatever versus the real how-tos, right? In terms of the how do you build content, or for us here, it's practical use of the tool versus the strategy behind using the tool or creating the concepts around the tool. But those were the two things that we found most helpful.
We'd always work with customer advisory board. If you don't have one, they're very, very valuable to have, where you invite your bestest customers and communicate with them on some kind of regular cadence about a variety of topics, right? If you can create a trusted environment for that, you get a lot of very honest, open feedback, whether it's event topics, products, solutions, features, functionality. And then, of course, just polling your community on what they would like to see, what would interest them in an event, what kind of topics, what kind of speakers, location, in person, virtual, hybrid, all of that stuff. If you've got a large enough audience with a critical enough mass, they're a great resource to guide you on that.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also hoping and planning to launch a cab and we'll meet the day before the event. So it's going to be a busy few months. I see.
Did I send you all my cab resources already, Rebecca?
No, I'd love it.
I'll send you I got a gazillion hyperlinks I used when I was doing the research last year.
That'd be amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, and Daniel, interestingly, so the plan right now, at least, is to do like a 1.5-day event here in the US and then to do smaller events in Europe, because we got some feedback that maybe that would be better versus doing one event in Europe. But no, we haven't really done many events. I don't really have surveys. We don't do a lot of webinars. We're still in lots of opportunity to build out lots of different areas of customer marketing.
That makes sense. The reason I ask is we actually kind of did it in reverse. Before we brought everybody back in person, we had sort of a series of events. So we got to test out certain things, whether or not certain topics worked out. And then we consulted all of our survey data from those events or whatever type of interaction you had, and then built our agenda accordingly.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. Awesome. Thank you. Those are my hot topics right now.
Awesome. My one like super tactical piece of feedback is when I've done it, it's always helpful to have something for them to react to, similar to what Christine said. Like if you get to the meeting and you leave it too open-ended, it was like nobody was saying anything until we were like, well, what about this? And then it got people off and talking on like, yeah, that topic specifically resonates with me, or my team would have liked that, but I, as the director, wouldn't sit in that session, stuff like that. So anytime you can give them space to react. And then we started sending out almost like a call for topics to our customer group ahead of registration. It came with like a save the date. And so we were in the higher ed space, so people love presenting at conferences, and it was something that happened very often. But the call for topics helped us narrow in on, we almost built the agenda, then did a call for proposals, mapped back where we could, or repurposed speakers where we could. But giving them something to react to first was a much more productive conversation.
Awesome. And for people that did get feedback from customers in like a conversation, did you always do it one-to-one? Like I'm calling the steering committee, but I'm really planning on having one-to-one conversations. I was not going to bring people together. And I'm curious if anyone has brought people together in groups for feedback, or only one-to-one.
We did a group meeting. Yeah. And I'm trying to remember how many it was before the event. It was probably like 4 meetings ahead of it where we were keeping them informed along the way. We also found as we got closer to the event, it was super helpful because then they became like our ambassadors and helped us promote it. And we gave each of them their own personal discount code. So it was like, see how many registrations you can get. And then we didn't, now that I'm thinking about it, we didn't incentivize them or anything for it, but we did obviously cover their conference registration and people on their team. But they were more than willing to share it, and they were excited to attend, and they felt like they got to be part of building it. And so they were willing to send it out on our behalf.
I made myself a smoothie.
Oh, Jennifer, you're not on mute. Yeah, and that's definitely part of what, I mean, I really, really want the customer feedback, but then, yeah, I'm really hoping that these customers get excited and spread the word and are more invested, so they want to come as well. Awesome, thank you.
We just have about 15 minutes left. Anything else that someone has been thinking about or wanted to ask about? No, I can share that we recently launched our executive customer advisory board 2 weeks ago. Thank you to many people in this group for your help and input there. But it was our very first meeting. We have 12 board members. They're all CMOs, and it was a cool conversation to be part of.
Do you offer incentives for that?
Not anything real. It's like the incentive and the benefit is around networking, engagement, access to our executive team, and a commitment that will prioritize feedback from this group. And then we are doing an in-person event this fall that we're paying for everything for. So it's not really an incentive because they're coming for a meeting with us, but it's going to be a really cool VIP experience, which I'm excited for too. And the other group I'm working on launching is what I'm calling our advisory council. And so we're looking to bring together a group of more closer to the product. I know that's not the right way to say that, but people who are users who are closer to the product to give us very specific direct product feedback. And so we'll be doing quarterly roundtables with that group, and then VIP experiences at any of our bigger events for them. But I'm just getting that one off the ground in the next
We're going to launch that hopefully at our fall conference, Caitlin,
cool.
where we're calling it a product advisory board.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, we went with council because people were getting too confused with
Well,
having.
what we ran it against was that everybody thought that the customer advisory board was a product advisory board. And I said, no, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's at a much higher level, right? It's much more strategy driven than it is actual functionality driven. And so the product advisory board is our way to kind of bring the practitioners to the table for not only their abilities to speak to the product team directly on a quarterly basis, but also for the product team to have a ready group of people that they can use for beta and asking the questions that they have around practical usage. So
Awesome.
But we're launching that, and it's actually going to be part of our advocacy program. It's kind of the winner at the end of the advocacy journey. If you advocate for us in all of these different ways, then you get to be on the product advisory board.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
We'll see how it works.
Question kind of similar to what you all are talking about, but our product team is going out with like a crazy number of betas right now. And it's really hard to track like who's in what at what time. And we've had some conversations because not all of the accounts that they're reaching out to are necessarily in good standing, and they're not checking on those kinds of things before they reach out. Does anyone have a good process, or have you worked closely with your product team to kind of figure some of that outreach out?
We're building it into the PAB. So as we start to structure it, we'll have the functionality around who does what now.
Yeah.
In terms of product. I past that, we're just not there yet. So we don't have a lot of the beta activity that you do right now. So it's much easier for us to control it. But they are coming to me to ask the questions about who should participate, which is, I guess, a win.
Definitely.
We had a similar situation, Jennifer, at my last company where it was getting out of control. And we were finding that like the product team was just going out and doing it and not even telling the account managers. And so then it was making conversations really tricky with the account managers, especially if they were in a beta for something that was going to be an upsell. And so we started doing bi-weekly meetings, which I don't know that that's the right way to do it, but it was how we sort of dug ourselves out of the hole in the interim. And it was like per beta, here are the customers that are participating. Here are the issues that we're facing, or here's feedback that we've gotten recently. And anyone who had a customer who was part of the beta program attended. So it was like not efficient or good. I'm not saying that's how you should do it, but it was a good like interim fix for us.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. I know I got a lot out of this selfishly, so thank you personally from me, but I always love these conversations, and it's always good to see everyone. And I'm sure Mary will send out more information about the next meeting as well. And if anyone wants to connect and we're not already connected, would love to stay in touch either via the group or on LinkedIn.
Thanks so much for running this, Caitlin, and also a shout out to you for National Review Day.
Oh gosh, thank you. Yeah, that was a fun one in partnership with Reputation. They did most of the heavy lifting, but it was a quick turnaround, but I was excited to see it. And I committed to leaving 5 reviews myself, because I feel like as much as I ask people for reviews, I don't leave them very often. So challenge for everyone here, leave 1 review for a product you use. Cool. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk
Bye,
soon.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Yep.